Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we're talking about some Star Wars news here with Rian Johnson apparently being okay with the possibility of Star Wars Episode 9 retconning The Last Jedi. Well, of course, man. You should be okay with that, seeing that your story just totally ruined Star Wars, but I digress. This is all coming from something called CinemaCon, which is actually something, you'd think that I would know about, but apparently it's news to me. It's apparently where about all this news sources and all these news stories and trailers are being dropped, and I just never really have heard of this as being a major place where these types of events happen, but sure enough, we at least got the Joker release happen there first before eventually they released it to the public. And now we've got Rian Johnson who's promoting his new film, Knives Out, which comes out later this year. And I know that every single person who loved The Last Jedi is going to go out of their way to support that film when it comes out. Cannot wait for that. I'm so pumped. I'm so psyched. I hope you can catch my sarcasm there, but we see here, he's okay with this story of his being retconned, and again, it should be. German Lucia, it really should be retconned because, let's be honest, it ruined many characters. Now let's see what the IO9 has to say. Yes, indeed, the purely objective IO9 has to say about all of this. He says, how do we put this delicately? Some of the decisions Rian Johnson made in Star Wars The Last Jedi rubbed people the wrong way. Yes, that is indeed putting it very delicately with kid gloves and a bunch of bubble wrap. That's about as safe as you can possibly go. The handling of Luke Skywalker, Rey's lineage, the fate of Snoke, all of these things instantly became lightning rods of debate and continue to be just that. Some fans even hope the sequel changes those things, and if they do, Johnson is okay with it. I would say that a lot of people really want these things to happen because, let's just be honest, if she turned out to be a nobody, and there's no real reason why she's as powerful as she is, then her character is nothing more than a Mary Sue, and it does not make sense within the Star Wars universe itself. There are no other characters in the Star Wars universe that fit that bill, that are powerful without any training, that are powerful without any means whatsoever. I mean, even if you go back all the way to Anakin Skywalker, even though he was essentially conceived by the Force itself, guess what? He still needed to be trained. Even though his midichlorian count was high, even though the wills were a very strong presence within him, he still needed to be trained before he could actually do anything with it. Some random things were happening, some strange things that were beyond his control, things that he would think about would happen, but that's pretty much it. Now, when you come to Rey and the story with Episode 9, going through Episode 8 and Episode 9, all of a sudden she can just do all these random things that took many other people years of practice to learn and training in order to do these things, and yet she can just do them for no reason. So yeah, I really do hope they retcon that, because if she indeed is a nobody, well then essentially the entire Star Wars universe is broken. But that has already happened because of another decision that Rian Johnson made, which is called hyperspace ramming, because now every time you go watch any Star Wars series or any Star Wars movie, you're going to think to yourself, why don't they just hyperspace ram it? Why don't they just put a ship in hyperspace? Why don't they put a droid into a ship, into an X-Wing, into any craft that is high speed, that is, light speed capable, and just go ahead and have it go through the Death Star? Boom! Problem solved. Oh, we can't do that because of the shields. Really? I would rewatch The Last Jedi, because apparently you have not seen that, because shields aren't that big of a problem when it comes to that at the very least. But I digress. While speaking to Johnson at CinemaCon 2019, MTV asked the writer, MTV, and director of The Last Jedi if he'd be bothered if Star Wars Episode 9 co-writer and director J.J. Abrams retconned the revelation that Rey's parents were no one. Johnson immediately shook his head and replied, like I said, I want to let go of all my expectations. I just want to sit back. I want to be entertained. I want to be surprised. I want to be thrilled. I want him to do stuff I wasn't expecting him to do and just go along for the ride. Yes, exactly. Just like what you wanted to do. You basically are saying here the same philosophy that you had when making your own movie, where you said, I want to subvert all expectations. Here's the problem. If you go into a movie and your main premise, everything that has influenced your story, everything that's influencing your direction is subvert, what you're going to end up having is going to have a very bad and poorly written story. And I think that any person with a brain who steps back for a second and reads the story and reads everything on screen and understands what he's trying to say would at least admit that the story has a lot of problems. That's why I always go to my boy Matthew Kadish, who really knows how to break these things down, because he, of course, is a writer himself, and he has spent a plethora of various articles on this very subject, breaking down why, from a story perspective, yes, he subverted expectations, but he also subverted the entire art, the entire art of writing itself. And so, in the end, what you have is a terribly written story that definitely does not work within the context of a broader story. That's been my biggest problem with The Last Jedi from the very beginning, is that if we're thinking of this as a trilogy, if we're thinking of this as a continuation of the original four, episodes 4, 5, and 6, as they are now known, with New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, then that movie does not make any sense. You know, even going to The Force Awakens, there are many parts of that don't work either, but at least there was enough there to get people excited so that people said, okay, you know what, I can let go with some of these things, some of these problems, and overall enjoy it. The Last Jedi instead decided to go, okay, well, you know, all these things that you were excited about, I'm just going to not talk about any of them, or if I do, I'm going to go in the total opposite direction. And so, of course, Rian Johnson should be okay, because that's the same exact thing that he did to, to J.J. Abrams in the first place. The same exact thing. Oh, would you have a problem if you retconned it? No, because, you know, I already retconned his story, and so it makes sense that he would retcon mine. And basically what this means is that the entire series is going to be a back and forth of retconning. Of the first person who made it retconning part of the original story, of the original trilogy, then Rian Johnson coming in and retconning the retcon, and now all of a sudden J.J. Abrams retconning the retcon of the retcon. And as you can see, that is a giant mess. That is a gigantic mess, no matter which way you spin it. No matter how you try and spin, and no matter try way to explain it, it just will not work. It just doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. And it's all about the subversion of expectations. And again, there's nothing wrong with subverting expectations. There are a lot of films out there that have done just that. There are many series and movies that deconstruct the typical superhero plot. You know, Gary over on Neurotics channel has been talked a lot about Doom Patrol and saying how it's basically a kind of a deconstruction of the superhero, and that's a very interesting topic, and it does it very well. The problem is that if you're just subverting expectations because you're like, okay, I'm gonna write this script. All right, so I could have Luke come back and be awesome, or I won't. I could have Rey have, a really awesome parental lineage and have everything be explained through training, but I won't. I could have there be a really cool moment here and try and maintain the Star Wars canon here about hyperspacing and not being able to ram people in hyperspace, but I won't. Like, seriously, like every single plot point you can just see him writing it saying, I could do this, but no, I'm going to do this instead because everyone's going to be expecting that I do this. And that's not a good way to write a story, let alone a cohesive story, let alone a cohesive story within what's supposed to be a cohesive trilogy. So what Rian Johnson needs to do is he needs to get the hell out of the way, which seems to be the case. He seems to admitting that he has no knowledge of what's going on here, which I find interesting because you would think that if he was that important to the Star Wars universe that he would kind of be in on everything, that they would kind of maybe have him on as some type of, consultant. I don't know. But, at the very least, if it's part of his trilogy too. And what's interesting to me is that J.J. Abrams will have written and directed, or at least partly written and directed, 2 of the films out of the 3, with Rian Johnson being the other one. So, in the end, this is a Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams trilogy. It makes sense to me, or at least it usually would make sense, that he would also be a part of this project, but apparently, by his own volition, that is not the case. That tells me a lot of different things. That tells me that possibly, what we have here is a situation where Rian Johnson isn't really a part of this universe anymore, and he might claim to be writing a story, and Star Wars might be saying, oh yeah, Lucasfilm might be like, oh yeah, we're still doing his trilogy, don't worry about it. But once episode 9 drops, maybe we'll be a little bit more honest. Or it could just be the fact that they don't really trust his ideas, because they basically see him in the corner there, and he's trying to subvert, and, JJ's like, hey, you know what, I really want to do this, and Rian Johnson's like, oh, you could do this, or not. Bum, bum, bum. Like, that's my own thought process of what's actually going on there. Let's see what it says. In other words, no, he won't be bothered. He just wants to see something new and exciting like he did himself by actually doing those things in the first place. We love The Last Jedi, by the way, just to clear that up. Thank you for your non-biased opinion. IO9, you had me worried for a second. You were being so objective, and then you had to be like, by the way, we are going to fully defend this movie, even though objectively speaking, it is bad. Thank you, IO9. I appreciate that so much. The interview, which you can watch below, also touched on other topics that are very important to fans of the franchise, so no, as should be obvious from the previous quote, he does not know what's going to happen in episode 9. Outside of a few brief meetings, he's out of the loop on the film. Yes, he is still working on the Star Wars movies, so he claims. There's no timeline as he's waiting on Lucasfilm to figure out their slate. I bet that's okay. Oh, Ryan, go ahead and write your trilogy. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go write my trilogy, and I'm gonna do this or not. I'm gonna do this or not. And then all of a sudden they're gonna be like, yeah, Ryan, you know what? We realized that all you really know how to do is try and subvert expectations, and that's not really good for a cohesive storytelling, and so you go off and do your, sequel to Knives Out, and go ahead and try and be your little indie self, and people will follow you and love you and everything, but we don't need you here anymore. Or not, because let's just be honest here. Lucasfilm doesn't care. Lucasfilm does not give a damn about what the audiences think. If they cared at all, they would not have made Solo. They would not have cast Alden Ehrenreich as Solo when there were better options that would have actually been more like Harrison Ford, which is, again, kind of where you need to go in this state of the being, this state of the business, because if you don't have someone that's like Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford is the iconic portrayal of Han Solo, and you're trying to base it off of that, character and you bring in somebody who's doing kind of the best work that he can do, but he's not very good at being Han Solo, he's not very good at being Harrison Ford, that's going to cause a lot of problems. It's going to cause a lot of questions. And so basically what we're doing is we're left with just nonsense. Pure and utter nonsense. A bunch of people who don't know what the hell they're doing, which is the reason why Episode 9 does not really seem all that appealing to me. Yes, I'm going to be in Star Wars Celebration next week. Very excited to be there, but I'm excited because I'm going to be around a bunch of other Star Wars fans and also a bunch of other movie fans too. Again, not just fans of my channel, but also fans of the other channels, and also get to meet the people from the other channels also, with the potential of meeting some other people too that I've looked up to for a long time. And I look at all this and I think to myself, like, how is it going to be? You know, what's the overall tone going to be? Is it going to be actual excitement? Is it going to be kind of mixed? I can't wait to actually interview some people who aren't a part of our group to say, hey, did you like The Last Jedi? What are your thoughts? Do you think that he deserves a trilogy? Do you think that The Phantom Menace is a good thing? What have you heard about The Phantom Menace? Can't wait to see how many people say, oh, I heard there were a bunch of alt-right trolls. I bet you have, because you're probably reading from people like IO9 or other sites like it, or Scotty Boy Mendelsohn, or all these things. And one last quote here from Johnson. He says, I'm also psyched about the things you're going to explore beyond what we've already seen. To me, that's kind of the most exciting stuff, is pushing the limits of seeing stuff we haven't seen before in Star Wars. Yeah. You know, like he did with The Last Jedi. Here's the full interview. Oh, we gotta add in that last thing. You know, he pushed the limits of stuff we've never seen before in The Last Jedi, and that's why The Last Jedi is a great film. Yes, thank you very much for your objectivity, IO9. But anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts about this? What are y'all's thoughts about Rian Johnson? Have you actually watched this video? Or whatever he wants to do, fine by you. Oh, yeah, it's fine. You know, go ahead and retcon everything. I retconned everything he did, so he has every right to do it to me. It's pretty much the discussion I see going on there. So let me know your thoughts about, you know, this, and also let me know your thoughts about Star Wars in general. What's your overall opinion? I'm kind of excited for the Mandalorian. I think the Mandalorian could be very good. I also have a lot of high hopes for the Clone Wars series finale, though of course that could also be messed up with the current people running Lucasfilm, but who knows? Could be good, right? Or not. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, smash that like button, give me the thumbs up, give me a subscribe. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Also, check out my links below, where you yourself can get 2 free audiobooks, including Star Wars, the EU novels. Yes, when Star Wars was great again, the EU, the now non-canon, the now Legends part of it. Specifically those, you know, voiced by Mark Thompson. He does a really great job. But anyway, you get 2 free audiobooks if you click on my link to get the Audible trial. It's a free trial. And with that free trial, you get 2 free audiobooks. And also, there's a link to get a 30-day free Amazon Prime membership as well. Yes, I do get a little bit of money from those things. So if you want to do that to support the channel, it is totally free for you. And I would greatly appreciate that. If not, if you maybe want to share the link or click on my affiliate link. And if you yourself do a lot of Amazon shopping, click on the link before you buy anything, because then I do indeed get a small commission at no cost to you. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.